Now let's turn our eyes to migration, which is an issue that is quite serious all over the world, but here in Southern Africa as well. The late Bishop Zwane was a human rights activist. He stood up for migrants, for refugees, welcomed them, preached the message of welcoming. Now, if you look at this region, not just Eswatini, but most of the countries within Southern Africa are faced with the phenomenon of migration. And then you have the issue of xenophobia as well, especially now with the economic crisis, job scarcity. At the end of the day, it's the migrants who feel the pain, who are blamed for taking jobs and so forth. What is your message when it comes to the issues concerning migration and refugees, not so much, but mainly migration, yes?
You touch a very broad issue, challenge, and problem, which can be handled and tackled from so very many different dimensions and aspects. So you call it all migration, okay? And this in its detail can be immigration, emigration. When the movement is outside of South Africa, will be people moving out, which is happening also in South Africa now. I know a group that operates from here, foundation, okay, which is registered lately, a big movement out, a big emigration of a bunch of, emerging young white South Africans, okay? So there's a hemorrhage of that happening now in South Africa.
It's as if, we say, we don't see a future, or we don't believe whatever type of thing. That's a problem. That's a problem to deal with. If South Africa was a place people were born, it should be made to be a home also for them. And that just means that we need to work on conditions in such a way that, things are welcome, it is, whatever type of, So that's one phenomenon. There's also the thing of immigration, okay? And this South Africa has always had for a long time from its neighbors, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, all of these, countries of Africa, even sometimes are far away as Nigeria or Ghana or whatever. So people move into South Africa, South Africa playing the host, South Africa playing host to all of this other, population from different parts of Africa, Somaliland, whatever. So they come in and they arrive in South Africa as immigrants. And these coming here are the ones who kind of create for South Africa a situation similar to those who move out of the continent towards Southern Europe, Italy, Greece, Spain, and several other places. The situation becomes similar. So the movement from Africa sometimes is in two directions. It's up north, it's also sometimes down south here. We're now talking about the movement down south here. The rest of Africa moving in here, which is immigration from different parts. When that is the case, the challenge can be several. Often, migration, is unfortunately and mistakenly always totally equated with need. That those who come in are needy, poor people. This is not always true with immigration. There are immigrants who come with skills, who come with high form of education to exercise in the different situations and all of that. And this we've seen that Afghani medical doctors and practitioners moving out, Palestinians, and so it is also from other parts of Africa to South Africa here. So what do? Pope Francis has dealt with this for a long time and has described at least 4 things for us to do. Okay, to receive, these people, play host to them, help to assimilate or, integrate them wherever it is possible, and then, as it were, give them room for them to enrich or to contribute to the new society in which they find themselves. So Pope Francis then would wish that we do not always see immigration as a problem, but see it as a new phenomena for growth, even in the local situation, playing host to those who come and enable them to contribute to the culture of the country, which is now, the place they've moved into. But what you also observe is also true. People, it's not also been here. I can give several examples. Even in the United States, there are black Americans who feel that Africans who go into the United States take jobs, okay, from them. And sometimes they say they take jobs and receive any salary when they would have come and pushed for a higher salary. So they destroy the job market for them. Something similar happens over here. The Africans coming here may also sometimes considered by South Africans as coming to take their jobs. In other words, being poor and all of that. That suggests two things. It's not simply coming to take their job, but it's also possible that they come with skills that are not available locally, and that's why they can find placement and jobs. This is another dimension that needs to be looked at. If that is the case, then this is a challenge to South Africans. Okay, it's a challenge to education, challenge to formation, challenge to acquisition of skills. If somebody comes and displays skills and therefore can find a placement, it means that you don't have those skills. And it means that the thing should be not to chase the person out, but feel challenged to now acquire skills. Okay, so the phenomenon can challenge South Africa to education, to have proper formation, acquisition of new skills, to be able to fill the type of needy areas and spaces which are there. So the phenomenon itself is broad, and what at least with Pope Francis would be glad to do is a certain amount of openness and invitation to the new challenges that the situation addresses to us. Every situation challenges us to rethink issues, not to adopt a simplistic approach to it and say, these are hostile, these come to take our job, and therefore the thing is to attack them. That's a facile. That's if you want, a critical, consideration of the issues. A situation like this, say, but why is this happening? And if you're ready to, we talk about dialogue. If you're ready to put questions to the situation and try to find answers, that's what will lead you to discover your own self and recognize your own, flaws, failures, lacks, and deficiencies, and want to grow and pick this up. So the issue of immigration then helps us, if you want, to realize the fullness of the human brotherhood or sisterhood and make us recognize our interdependence interaction. Nobody disposes of all skills. And sometimes this is an invitation for us to be open to each other's skill and how each other we can mutually enrich each other. So these are perspectives that can be adopted, and it's not a simple thing about chasing those out, because this invariably, in the world these days, there's no community that is made up completely of its own members. That was years ago, that's far. The world is, every community has foreigners or outsiders, immigrants inside that community. And if this were to happen, the unfortunate response of it is that elsewhere, where South Africans have also moved, then they also get hostile, treated in a very hostile way and stuff like that. So for me, the thing about responding to such movement of people with hostility and hatred, for me is the uncritical way of dealing with the situation. And I think in most cases, as I would say, it invites the government to look at its own immigration policies and its own government policies. What do I mean by that? I come from Ghana. So these days in every part of the world there are Chinese. If for any reason the Ghanaians will think that the Chinese taking all the job labor, because we have universities of technology and we produce people and they need to give whatever, this requires a regulation from the government to be able to protect its local labor and its local job force. It's not a thing for fight or hostility, it's a thing for proper regulation that would ensure that, Ghanaians or whatever type often have something to do. Same thing will happen here in South Africa. If for the government of South Africa finds this, immigration or immigrant or whatever, a treat
a threat to its own labor. It's time for the government of South Africa to formulate principles and regulations that safeguard its own population and ensure their job placement. It's not, it doesn't call for fight or hostility, but this is a rational way of doing that.
Cardinal Turkson, thank you so much for your time.